Because if you've had a morning like me, you probably went to log in to either Facebook or I believe it was Instagram, Meta owned, and discovered that you had somehow locked yourself out of your account, or maybe you felt you got hacked. I know my blood pressure and my heart rate definitely went up because I was thinking, oh boy, I've actually had somebody try to hack into my account over this last week. So yes, I was quite concerned this morning, as I well imagine many of you were too. So I'm so glad that's over with. I don't really know what the cause of that was, but I'm sure it'll surface sooner or later through social media, usually does. So now that that's over with, I just want to welcome you to Tea Talk because I actually wasn't sure we were going to make it today, the way the morning went. But as I was sitting here waiting for the magic moment to hit the go live button, I was thinking about this cup, and I always show you this side and you see all the nice little hearts. I've had this cup for a long time, but I've never showed you this side, sweetheart. So it kind of reminds me of the KISS theory. Keep it simple, sweetheart. I used to call sweetheart something else until a friend of mine phrased it that way, and I prefer that much better. So today on Tea Talk, I actually want to talk a little bit about how we handle our vehicles. You know, we count on a vehicle, be it a motorbike, a bicycle, could be a car, could be a van, truck, doesn't matter. If it gets you from point A to point B, then it's important to you. And it is amazing how many men are great at looking after vehicles. It's not something that women do. Women, well, some do. I mean, I used to be a mechanic, but most of the time women are doing more the womanly things, and the guys, they look after the machinery and stuff like that for the most part. Okay. I myself, having been in the mechanical world, you know, I got to study many things, like how an engine actually works. You know, what fluids go where, you know, what's important, what's not, and what's important for maintenance, what you want to do on a regular basis, what are the things you want to check on. And you know, here's what I've come to realize. Women, when it comes to our bodies, we're really good at paying more attention to ourselves than men are. Now, a lot of you wives, girlfriends, whichever the case may be, you're probably frustrated with your spouse because they just don't want to take care of themselves. They're too busy living life, and they'll get to it later. And I have to admit, I was that way too for many, many, many years because of how we're raised. You fall, you hurt your knee, you start to cry. And I don't know about you, but in my world, it was like, oh, you're crying? You want something to cry about? I'll give you something to cry about. That's nothing. So you learn to get tough. But the unfortunate thing in that is that we also learn to disconnect our bodies, our brain from our bodies, and our bodies from our brain. So we don't pay attention to our own personal vehicles anymore. We get up in the morning and, well, let's compare our bodies to an actual vehicle. Okay. When you leave the house, I'm pretty sure you don't check your tires to make sure they're okay. You don't check any of the fluids under the hood. You probably don't check the signal lamps to make sure that all of that works too. You probably don't check the brakes and the horn and all that stuff. Nobody does. We jump in our vehicle, we hit the key if we haven't already done the remote start, and we're just grateful it starts and we keep going. We don't give it a second thought. Now, eventually you get into your vehicle and maybe it kind of, you know, then starts up. Okay, well, we ignore it. Or maybe it's just not braking as good as it should, or the brakes are making an incredible squeal. Well, here's something I know about brakes. If you don't replace the brake shoes or discs, as it may be, disc shoes, disc pads, and you let it get right down to bare metal, well, now that's going to chew into your rotor, and that gets very expensive. So my whole point in this is we're good at making sure we have oil in our vehicle, most of us. We get our little cards that say, you know, come to Mr. Lube or Jiffy Lube or whichever oil shop is your shop of choice. And yeah, we look at the mileage and say, okay, we should, because we know if we don't change the oil on a regular basis, we're going to blow up that engine. If we don't check our oil on a regular basis, we're going to blow up that engine. All right, kind of important. But it is very interesting that we do not do the same thing with our own physical bodies. And our bodies are not like a vehicle that you can just go to the dealership and buy a new one. I wish. I mean, believe me, I have asked for warranty on this one many, many times, but I guess I learned that, well, I guess that's not going to happen. So I better start learning how to look after the one that I have. And that's my whole point, people. We're good at looking after our pets more than we look after ourselves. We're good at looking after our vehicles more than we look after ourselves. And women in particular, we're good at looking after everybody and everything else long before we consider ourselves. But if we don't consider ourselves and we don't do the prevention and we don't do the maintenance that we need to do, well, guess what happens? Everything starts to break down. So let's take two, because I love Camaros, let's take two 69 Camaros, and put them side by side, and we'll have Sally take one and Susie take the other. Well, Susie's kind of sloppy and doesn't, really care about the engine or the brakes or anything. She just likes to get in there and drive, and she'll put the cheapest gas into it that she can, and she's only going to do the repairs that she wants to do, and that's it. Okay. Now, Sally, on the other hand, is very meticulous, and she makes sure that all the maintenance and preventative stuff is done. Let's skip forward 20 years. What do you think each vehicle is going to look like? So Susie's is probably going to be rat bagged and rusted and falling apart and squeaking and squealing and clanking and all the things that old rust buckets do. Whereas Sally's, on the other hand, is probably going to look like it's maybe 5 years old. And that's what we actually want to have, that same approach with our own physical bodies. When it comes to aging, we do the same thing. If we're not taking care of our bodies, we're going to prematurely age. There's many factors that go into it, but obviously if we do prevention and maintenance work on our own bodies, that is really going to help us to live longer, healthier, more enjoyable lives by far. So I'm going to invite you to join me on a webinar. Is coming up on February 20th. John Westerdahl, he's actually got the blueprint. Try that again. I almost made it through this one without a flip up. All right. He's got the blueprint for anti-aging, and a lot of preventive and maintenance stuff is in there as to how we can slow down the rust bucket factor on our own bodies. So I hope you join me. I'm going to try to put the link in on this. We're having problems with the link today. It's not just Facebook that's glitching. There's many glitches, so we're having so much fun. But anyway, I will put the link in for that. And if you're around tomorrow, I'm going to be doing the weekly wellness show as well. And I would love to have you there. I'm hoping to aim for 1 o'clock for that, Pacific Standard Time. That would be 4 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. I'm trying to get that. And if you're watching this on Facebook, I have a YouTube channel, also Danny Cade Wellness. And if by chance you're watching this on YouTube, well, you can also find me on Facebook. Danny Cade Wellness. So join me tomorrow, and I will try to get that link up for you. And if you haven't yet registered for my free online wellness center, I invite you to that, because there's all sorts of great stuff in there. There's recipes, videos, archived webinars that you may have missed, so you can kind of, scroll through and see what interests you in the moment. All kinds of health files in there. So I invite you to join me on that too. All right, I think I've monopolized enough of your time for today. Thank you so much for being here. I better double check, make sure there's no questions, because I didn't even look to see if anybody's actually with me today. And no questions. Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much, everyone, and make it an awesome day. And we will see you next week on Tuesday's Tea Talk, and tomorrow on the Wellness Wednesday show. Take care, everyone. Once again, I'm going to find my way out of here. Bye for now. Once again, I'm going to find my way. That's not it. I did it again. I really always struggle with this, don't I? Here we go. Bye.